All right, you guys know me. I can only stay away from the nerdy stuff for so long, so we're bringing you the nerdy stuff this morning. We're going to bring you the salary cap, Joe Thuney's extension. Obviously, that happened yesterday. I'm late to the party. Sorry about that. Got things to get done, but I do want to bring this stuff to you, and I enjoy bringing it to you. So, obviously, big news. Joe Thuney extended. The Bears got it done. Ryan Poles talked about for a while wanting to get it done. Got it done. So that was the big news yesterday. You can see some of these clips are these snippets from Twitter are from yesterday. And they were earlier on in the day. So from NFL Alert, Bears extending Joe Thuney, Adam Schefter, compensation update, blah, blah, blah. What happened? We'll get into all that. Ian Rappaport. But then Brad Biggs broke down that Joe Thuney has $33.5 million fully guaranteed now, meaning 2025 and 2026 years of contract. Believe this still significantly lowers his cap hit for the season, which was going to be $16 million. And then later, not long after, said Thuney cap number for 2025 is $8 million. So I trust Brad Biggs. I do. I think he's a solid insider. He's got good information. I have found nowhere else. If you follow me on Twitter, I did ask for more information on where this came from. I tried to do my due diligence. We're running with that $8 million cap hit for 2025, but that means we're pushing more contracts back, pushing more contracts into future years, which means we have built a juggernaut with good players, solid long-term options. I'll get into all that on the salary cap, but long-term, you're not going to see an offseason like this again for at least the next 3 years. This team is built the way it's going to be built, and we're going to be adding through the draft, and that's it. In fact, we're already with far fewer players next year, $30 million more expensive, and right up to the salary cap for next year without drafting our draft picks and without any other additions. So we're going to get creative from here on out. Going to have to, but we've built a championship contender. It's what we wanted Ryan Poles to do. Now, there's people out there bashing Ryan Poles. After we learned that it took him bringing Caleb into Hallis Hall, and he was the one who convinced Caleb to come to the Bears, I don't understand anybody's hate for Ryan Poles. This always happens. Somebody has to bear the brunt of that mantle as an organization change. Caleb didn't want to come here. He did not want to be a Bear for a reason. He literally saw what they did to Justin Fields. Those who have been following this channel since its inception a year and 6 months ago now know that Justin Fields was not the issue. The organization was. Now, you can hate on the kid for whatever reason. I posted something yesterday on Twitter that blew up, and it is what it is. I just support Justin Fields and New York Jets. Doesn't mean I don't support Caleb. I just said it's going to be fun to watch and see what he does with the Jets. That's it. I still like the kid. Am I a Jets fan? No. I want to see Justin succeed, though. So, anyways, neither here nor there. Ryan Poles has worked through the adversity of people seeing things like that, a very talented Justin Fields get squashed by this organization. Caleb didn't want to come for that reason. Did not want to be a Bear. And then Ryan Poles convinced him. Ryan Poles gets the Joe Thuney extension done. Ryan Poles brought in Drew Dahlman. Right? We didn't always get these high-level players signing with the Bears. Now we are. It's happening, guys. This team is transforming before our eyes, and I love every second of it. So, little highlights on Joe Thuney here, and you can see down below. Let's bring this little. See the offensive line. This is from PFF. This is from their line. This little part right down here. This is obviously from CHSN, I believe. From Twitter. Not trying to take any credit from them. I left the little logo up top for them in there. But this is the new offensive line. Braxton Jones, a 77.4 grade. Joe Thuney, 80 grade. Anybody over 80 is awesome. Anybody over 70 is awesome. I'd say you need to be at least a 60 to be a starter, even be considered a starter. 65 is it's like minimum starter quality, and you get really good players after 70, 75, 80. We've got, look at this, Braxton Jones, Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, and Darnell Wright, and really Jonah Jackson got the rapport with Ben Johnson. History there, and last year was more of a struggling, frustrating year for him being moved to center. The injuries, I'm going to trust him on this one, but I do think there is potential for him to be replaced long term. Not bashing on him, but on a really solid offensive line, I think he's the one that I worry the most about. But I'm not trying to create false alarms. Solid player, and I'm glad the Bears went and got someone that Ben Johnson was comfortable with. So here's Joe Thuney's career accolades. I should have said accolades instead of highlights. 4-time Super Bowl champion, 2-time first-team All-Pro, 2-time second-team All-Pro, 3-time Pro Bowler, all-rookie team, New England Patriots all-2010s team, New England Patriots all-dynasty team, first-team All-American in college, first-team All-ACC in college. This Hall of Famer. He's gonna be a Hall of Famer, Joe Thuney. There's no way he does not make the Hall of Fame. So as we like to do, we bring up PFF on here, and here's the things that you need to point out. It takes a couple year for guys to get into the league, and you see this 5 sacks, 4 sacks allowed those first 2 years, pass blocking efficiency down a little bit. But this is actually very average and very normal. Those are, look at the overall grade, 63.9, 73.5. This would be a good player. You draft this guy, comes in, and you get this production. This is Braxton Jones production these first couple of years. I'm happy with it. It's not Pro Bowl caliber, but it's good. And then he flipped the switch that year 3, and that's what you want out of your offensive line guys. You want them to flip that switch, turn into a Pro Bowler, turn into that guy, All Pro, and he did that. Look at this over the last 7 years. He has given up a grand whopping total of 7 total sacks in the last 7 years. A sack a year average, none last year. Now, 25 pressures, 33 the year before, probably his worst year since he hit his stride. But all of these are phenomenal seasons. Joe Thuney just does not have a bad season. And teams he's with succeed. They do. 2 Super Bowls with the Patriots, 2 Super Bowls with the Chiefs. They just succeed with him. That's what they do. He is a winner. And he's going to bring that championship mentality, that championship pedigree with him, his experience, to the Bears. There's no... you hear people talk all offseason about the other guard for the Chiefs, us trading for him or signing him or doing something to figure out how to make it work out. Joe Thuney was the true prize, and I'm not worried at all at early 30s. His production, players, offensive linemen, if it's different, if it's a running back, it's different if it's a wide receiver, someone, a skill position like that. These offensive linemen, they're playing well into their late 30s now and playing elite level. You look at Kevin Zeitler, who I proposed the Bears bring here, late 30s, and last year was one of his best years. So I'm not worried at all about Joe Thuney's age, especially the next 3 years. He should be keeping the same level of high intensity up into the next 3 years for sure. So here's his PFF production, his individual PFF, his team pass. So this is pass blocking efficiency. So his individual PFF pass blocking efficiency, his team, and then the team rank in pass blocking efficiency. Those who aren't aware, the Bears have been perennially in the 24 to 32 range pass blocking efficiency. Well, every team he's been on, the worst year, 24th was his second year at the Patriots when you can see he hadn't hit his stride yet. After that, his teams have always done well. Teams pass blocking efficiency, the Bears are right around 80 every year. You can see these guys are all high 80s. High 80s will always be. It's different than individual. So as a team, if you're in the high 80s, you're going to be in the top 5, top 10. So you see here 7th, 87.8. 88.3 for 3rd. So those high 80s will be the benchmark here. So we'll see if the Bears can raise it up from the low 80s to high 70s for former years. This last year we were in the low 80s. But individual, it's always, everyone's going to have a grade individually of 95 plus. But when you get into the individual range of the 97 and a half and up, you're hitting Pro Bowl caliber guys. And you look at this stretch by Joe Thuney, he has had some individual absolutely beastly seasons. So he's definitely an amazing addition for this team. I don't think fans realize yet how special he is, but he's going to be very special for them. We're changing the culture in Chicago. This is now different. We're different. We're going to have an offensive line for once. So this is just fun to compare last year's starters and backups to this year's starters and backups. Then I'll show you the production of that, why it was so hard. years prior. So Braxton Jones, Tevin Jenkins, Coleman Shelton, Nate Davis, Darnell Wright. I actually don't hate this lineup other than Nate Davis. I don't hate anybody, but I hate him in our lineup. Matt Pryor obviously filled in, and he was the true starter. He did a decent job. I wouldn't say he's worth keeping, and a lot of fans wanted us to keep him, but he was let go for a reason. Yeah, he gave up a lot of sacks, a lot of pressure, but he filled in very admirably. I think he did a decent job. Doug Kramer as a backup is rough to stomach, but not just that. We had other guys playing. I mean, before I go to the next screen, just look at the depth on this team now. You've got starters. Every one of these is improved. They are improved. Some of these guys played well. Coleman Shelton played well. Tevin Jenkins played well. But these are improvements upon that. And then you look at the depth. Karan Amagaji a year later is a significant thing. Bill Murray coming back healthy will be a significant thing. Luke Newman being drafted is a significant thing. Ryan Bates, we'll see what happens there. But Ozzie Trapillo, starter quality, not having to start. Maybe he will start over Braxton Jones. We'll see. I'm not trying to predict anything here. This is just where the depth chart stands right now. Sorry, I got a frog in my throat. This is where it stands right now. That's amazing depth. We didn't have that depth last year. Ozzie Trapillo could be a starter, but as we showed with Joe Thuney, players take some time to adjust in the league. So there's no rush. I like that we don't have to have a rush here. Play Braxton this year. You'll see in the salary cap, we probably are not going to extend Braxton. That's just the way it is. He's probably just a casualty of it. I hope he plays Pro Bowl caliber level, and we can get a high comp pick out of him signing somebody somewhere else early on in free agency next year. That would be abso-freaking-lutely phenomenal. That would be the best case scenario for the Bears, and Ozzie Trapillo comes along and does awesome. So let me move off, though, and here's what killed the Bears this last year. It wasn't these starters, because I know this is a lot, guys, the stats, the nerdy stuff. I will do my best to explain it, but SBP, snaps between pressures. So how many snaps did you have between a pressure? And it's different for different positions. Your tackles, you're going to have more pressure. So I say anything above 20 is really good. You can see Braxton Jones was at 18.1. So not great, not terrible, only gave up 4 sacks, but he did give up a lot of pressure. So Braxton's on the hot seat this year before, and I still don't think there's any way we keep him around. If there's a trade deadline opportunity to trade him for a third, you take that in a heartbeat. I don't think you'll get a third for him. Team might give up a fourth for him. We'll see what happens, but if you can make that trade and get it before the comp pick, either way, if he plays out a Pro Bowl caliber year, you keep him. Anyways, that's speculation stuff. But at the guards, above 25 would be really good, and above a center, anywhere in that 25 to 30 range is really good. And you see Coleman Shelton actually did a really good job. He got crapped on by our fan base. I don't understand it, but he did well. And the only reason you upgrade that position and bring in some, because he's the best at the position. You see Drew Dahlman down here, 29.5, so it was better than Coleman Shelton. 2 sacks allowed, much less snaps because he was injured last year, but you see the run blocking grade. Drew Dahlman, 79.8, is absolutely phenomenal. We increased the run blocking on this team exponentially. So 66.7 by Coleman Shelton. That was his weakness, and Drew Dahlman, that much higher. This team's going to be able to run the ball. We're going to be able to run the ball for sure. In fact, look at these 3 guys we picked up: Joe Thuney, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson. All 3 of them solid in the run game. But you see some of these guys who took snaps who weren't even on the depth chart here in 2024. I mean, they were way down. They weren't in the initial backups. So Larry Borum taking snaps was criminal, absolutely criminal. 10 snaps between a sack, a hit, or hurry, between a pressure. So snaps between pressure, 10 points. That's absolutely abysmal. You look at Karan Amagaji, and you might be saying, well, look at Karan. Yeah, but he was coming off injury from college. We knew he needed a year to develop. The Bears have already addressed that. There was a good game against the Vikings they have to take positive from. They're not, banking on him to be the starter this year, but this is a year where he needs to improve off the offseason. We'll see what we got out of him. He was a 3rd-round pick. I think it was worth the pick, but obviously we picked Ozzie Trapillo for a reason. So he's obviously no stats on him from last year. This doesn't include the rookies, the 2 rookies that we got for 225 with Luke Newman and Ozzie Trapillo. And then same with Jake Curhan off the team. Same thing. Terrible run blocking, and they're only in red because they were not on the initial depth on the starter or backup line. They were later down. down that depth chart and they got thrust into these roles because of injuries. And then Nate Davis and the terrible situation that was, and 15.5 between pressure and 53.7 run blocking grade. See a lot of these guys that are, gone. And Doug Kramer, I don't know if he makes the 53-man roster. I really don't. I don't think he does this year. And could he make the practice squad? Sure, but same thing happened last year. We cut him, re-signed him, put him on the practice squad, brought him back up, put him on the practice squad. So I think he's a casualty. Kind of the end of the experiment there. But Ryan Bates, still some good potential there. We'll see what happens with him. But these guys that are sticking around, Darnell Wright, they're the true highlight. Between pressure, needs to be a little bit better, but on the tackle position, like I said, above 20 is good. It's good. Gave up a few too many sacks, but I really think that having the help he's going to have with Jonah Jackson and this offensive line, that's going to help Darnell look even better. And he already looked good. He had the best, even out of the guys that came in, the best run blocking grade out of anybody. He is the Penei Sewell to Ben Johnson's offense. So it's going to be fun to watch him progress. A lot of people wanted to bring Matt Pryor back. Same thing. Just not a good enough run blocking grade. Tevin Jenkins, I would totally support bringing. He just couldn't stay healthy. So really what they did is they replaced him with Jonah Jackson is essentially what they really did there. But this is really just for you to get a taste, an idea of how this team improved, how we went from certain guys to other guys. And I'll re-show that here. But really the depth of this too. Luke Newman coming in, Ozzie Trapillo coming in, Bill Murray healthy. We're in a better position than we were last year. We really are. And the starters are upgraded, but also the backups look a lot better as well. But here's the biggest thing to me, the continuity. You're going to have these 5 guys over at least the next 3 years where you're trying to prove that Caleb was the right selection, that Caleb is the future. You've got these 5 guys that are on the books for the next 3 years, and we're spending money on the offensive line. Now, again, I'm going to reemphasize this is speculation on these next 2 years. According to Brad Biggs, it's $8 million this year. How those last 2 years fill out, if you're making that contract, the full contract that they're reporting that it is, that's what it would have to be, 21.5 each of the next 2 years. So interesting how that's going to work out. But you've got these guys in continuity. You got Braxton Jones as well. We'll see what happens with him. I like Braxton Jones. This is not me crapping on him. I'm just pointing out where things stand. And then I absolutely want to show you guys the salary cap implications, what I'm talking about overall here for the next few years moving forward now as we have all these extensions and all these signings that are done. The salary cap sheet. Those who have followed the channel for a while know that I'm a nerd. I'm absolutely a nerd. I love to break things down, love to go over everything, see how things pan out and work. And you've got SPOTrack, and you can go off SPOTrack if you want, but I like to break it all down. You can see I have 2025, 26, 27. A lot of these contracts go past that. In fact, Caleb will have a 5th-year option in 2028. You have Kyle Monangai, who just signed as a rookie. He will be all the way to 2028. You'll have Luther Burden, who just signed as a rookie, 2028. So there's several of these that go past this. I just track the next 3 years for these purposes. You'll see who I'm projecting to be on the 53-man roster, the 90-man roster count, which we are full +1 because of the exemption they're using on Tory Taylor, which is an interesting scenario because Tory Taylor will make the 53-man roster, but they're using that exemption right now, so they'll just have to cut down other players later, but he'll have to come off that exemption when the 53-man roster cut down happens, because you can't carry that exemption for a player unless they're on the practice squad. Can't carry that on the 53-man roster. So anyways, here is the 2025, 2026, 2027 roster salary cap, the cap hit, I should say, not how much they're making, but how much the cap hit is for each year. And you can get down here to Joe Thuney, and from Brad Biggs, obviously you saw it's $8 million. We don't know what 26 and 27 are. I'm refreshing SPOTrack constantly. I'm looking for breaking stuff on it. We don't know if it's 24 million here and 18 million here, 18 and a half, 19 million. We don't know if it's even like this, but I just broke it down even. Just know that that is speculation right now of what it is. But there's a lot of things that stick out here. The biggest thing, obviously, as we've gone over, is the length of the contract for these. Caleb Williams, 3 years. Other starters, running back is probably the only one. So you can kind of read the tea leaves and see next year we're probably going to be drafting a running back, but Kyle Monangai is, at least 3 years. Deion Hankins, um, Ian Wheeler, even if you count the restricted free agency. But then wide receivers, our core 3 wide receivers signed for the next 3 years. Our core 2 tight ends signed for the next 3 years. The core of this offensive line, Darnell Wright included, 5th-year option, signed for the next 3 years. Now, Braxton, could he get an extension? I doubt it. With the way the salary cap looks for next year already, we'll go to that right now. Look at next year's salary cap, long-term implications. So after the extension here from Joe Thuney, we are back under. We feel good. We got a buffer cap here, which they always roll into the season with. There's always going to be around this range. Could they do something with that? Yeah, potentially. They could. Are they going to? I have no idea, but I would doubt it because this is the range they like to roll into with. But salary cap down to that now for the 53-man roster. 279, 200 is what the cap hit or the cap total is. Our adjusted cap with last year's, our dead cap prior, new additions, add in the practice squad, and that's what you get. 8,837 is where our salary cap hits, right? So nice, comfortable range. It's where you want to be. It's right where we should be. But look at next year's salary cap. Estimated right now to be 307,500. Some believe it could be upward to 326 million, depending on how some of the TV deals and everything comes together. They'll announce it next year. That's what they always do. But that's where it's commonly believed to be. Look at where the Bears total is right now. You're basically looking at buffer cap space, and we don't have a full roster next year like we do this year. And we've got rookies to count for that you have to sign too. There's going to be some moves that have to be made here. For example, none of these safeties are signed for next year. That's all our core 4 safeties. One of these guys going to make it from the practice squad. One of these guys going to make it. I don't know, but your cornerbacks are okay. Zaw Frazier, Kyler Gordon got his extension. You got Jalen Johnson. What's going to happen with Tyreek Stevenson, Terrell Smith? I don't know. We got them the next 2 years at least, though. Linebackers, we got TJ Edwards, Ruben Hippolyte, Tremaine Edmonds. Really going to prove it year this year. But there's some missing spots here as you go through. Andrew Billings, Chris Williams, Dominic Robbins. There's going to have to be some guys signed, and we're already right at the edge of that for next year. 298, 735 with less players. You see, that's with less players. I do think some players like Luke Elkin, I'll get into my prediction later on who makes it. I think he'll make it over Scott Daly, primarily because of his relationship with Torrey Taylor. He was the long snapper for Torrey Taylor at Iowa. So I think that's going to make it there for him. Scott Daly obviously was with Detroit for a while too, which was with Ben Johnson. I don't think there's loyalty there. This is really a roster spot that I don't think is that important for, as long as Luke Elkin can get the job done, that's all that matters. And he's a couple, 100,000 cheaper, which not going to break the bank either. But, you've got roster spots to be filled there, roster spot there, roster spot here, there. Even Braxton Jones, a major roster spot. Ryan Bates, a backup roster spot. Another tight end roster spot. Other wide receivers roster spot. It gets more expensive because of the way we built these contracts. You look at the offensive line, especially Joe Thuney being cheap this year, Jonah Jackson being cheap this year, more expensive next year. Drew Dahlman slightly cheaper, more of a level contract. On the defensive line too, though, with Grady Jarrett and Dio Odengbo, what we did there. Put it off, and you see how that builds for next year, how it's putting we're pushing these things back a little bit. But this is also a very consistent team from here on out. Probably draft a defensive tackle next year, more than likely. Definitely draft a safety, definitely draft a running back. Probably another offensive lineman to keep building that room properly. I would have a hard time seeing a wide receiver unless one fell into our lap. So it's going to be drafting for needs at this point. We're getting to a point we like, though. That's where you want consistency with good players on this team, and you've got that with Cole Kmet, Colston Loveland, Braxton Jones, Darnell Wright, Drew Dahlman, Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, Ozzie Trapillo, Luther Burden, Roma Dunze, DJ Moore, DeAndre Swift, Roshan Johnson, Kyle Monangai, draft a running back. I mean, you've got a solid roster that's going to be, turnover to next year is going to be better. This is the big area of concern for next year. But this is the long-term implication that we're talking about right here. Right here. 307 the salary cap. We're already sitting at 298. So our salary cap with far less players next year is already $30 million more expensive. So interesting to see what the Bears do long term with this. There are options. We can restructure contracts. We can reformulate things depending on how well the team does. We're going to have to long term have a plan for Caleb after these 3 years. But that's the whole point of this thing. Build this thing into a championship contender right now for Caleb, for the Bears. See what we can do with it. Then go from there and build. If it doesn't work out, we're stripping this thing down and doing the same old Bears and rebuilding from scratch again. Nobody wants to see that. I don't want to see that. You don't want to see it. That's why they've built such an all-star roster here. That's why they've done what they've done here. Solid secondary, at least for this year. That's going to have to be addressed next year. Decent linebacker room. This is going to have to be addressed next year as well, or we're going to have to see what they do with them this year. Hopefully there's some breakout, work. TJ Edwards is here long-term, but Tremaine Edmonds I think he's really on the hot seat this year. Montez Sweat, Jervon Dexter, big years for both of them to prove some things. Jervon Dexter, especially. Grady Jarrett coming into a good situation with the Bears. I think he's really going to fit well. Daiho Dangbo. And then we need to add to this room next year as well. The offensive line looking really stacked and solid. Add to it a little bit more next year too. On and on and on. So we're built long term. We're built with good contracts. You're not going to see the offseason next year like you saw it this year with this offseason. It's definitely going to be less signings, couple guys walking, hopefully a couple comp picks, building through the draft, moving forward from here. You made your shot. You made your move, Ryan Poles. I honestly think this is the team for the next several years. You're not going to see. You see the rumors out there about Trey Hendrickson, and I was an advocate for that. You guys saw that. I really thought it would be a good move to bring Trey Hendrickson here. I think that's a smart player to build your team with, and I like Trey Hendrickson. You look at that salary cap, and we can restructure things. We can move things around. We can make things happen. We can restructure players. We know we're going to stay here. DJ Moore, Cole Kmet, Jalen Johnson. We can restructure some of those contracts. I don't see that being the avenue right now. I think he's built his team. This is the year it came together. This is the year he expects big results. We got to have playoff aspirations, and I do think he's got his eyes on the Super Bowl this year. I think Bears fans are PTSD. We struggle with that. We don't believe it can happen. You're going to have to prove it to us first before we can get all in again and feel like we can make the playoffs, make a run. But this is the team he's going forward, and now it's build through the draft after this point and work around those long contracts. You got 3 stud receivers for the next 3+ years together. 3+ years together. You got your quarterback 3+ years. You got your offensive line 3+ years. You got tight ends 3+ years. You got a lot of the defensive line 3+ years. Need some additions next year through the draft in some of those spots. But this is a solid team moving forward. So Ryan Poles has shot his shot. He has built the roster that he wants to construct, and now it's time to put it on tape. But this Joe Thuney extension really shows, and in salary cap next year. Let me know in the comments if that surprises you, where you see the salary cap already next year with fewer players, not even a full 53-man roster, and already $30 million more than this year, and right up to the salary cap expected for next year. So there's going to be some moves made. Probably letting Braxton walk, not picking up additional running backs. Probably not going to happen. Moves can happen mid-season. We can always see how things go, but I don't expect big changes. The rest of this it's really going to be take these guys into camp. We'll see how camp's going. We're all waiting for that news. See how camp's going. Trim it down. Get the best 53. And move forward this year with a team that you construct, that you gel, you cohese, and you make a run with. So this is the team. I'm here for it. I'm excited for it. I know you guys are too. So if you're excited for this Bears team, if you're excited to see some stuff on OTAs, that's going to be coming out really soon. We'll let you know as soon as that stuff comes out. But I wanted to break down the salary cap implications, the Joe Thuney news, how it really affects this team long term, and how this team is gelled for the next 3+ years. Even if they don't perfectly capitalize it this year, when you bring all those guys back and you've got the same basic roster with this high level of studs on it, This should gel into something over the next 3 years. If we don't make the Super Bowl, not just the playoffs, in one of the next 3 seasons, I would be disappointed. I really would. This is where I stand on this subject. So appreciate you guys tuning in. Hit that like button if you haven't done that by now. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Appreciate everyone being a part of this channel. Until next time, Dub Bears and Bear Down.